After being rejected, humiliated, and banished by her entire pack, Amelia thought she would be alone for the rest of her life. But when she rescued a dying wolf cub in the forest, she never imagined it wasn't an ordinary cub, but the sole heir of Caleb, the Wolf King of the North. Even more absurdly, the poison didn't disappear. It was a living curse. When all treatments failed, Amelia activated the dormant white moon force within her bloodline, instantly purifying dark magic. But this backfired, poisoning her and nearly killing her. As she collapsed, the Wolf King held her, saying, "You saved my son. I will not let anyone hurt you again. You saved my son. I will not let anyone hurt you again."
Welcome to Luna's Romance Stories. Read the entire novel in one go. Message or comment to tell me what kind of story you'd like to read. Subscribe to the channel for daily updates. Luna reminds you, the story begins now.
The Gathering Stones formation stands in the heart of the Black Pine Forest community. This granite boulder, smoothed by time, has witnessed centuries of tribal rituals. Tonight, torches surround the ancient rock, casting leaping shadows on the faces of nearly 200 werewolves gathered in human form. Amelia Hart stood at the edge of the crowd, her thin shawl wrapped tightly around her body to ward off the October chill. She didn't need to be in the center to know what was happening. The magical aura of the refusal ritual filled the air, making her stomach churn. "Another one's done for," someone whispered behind him, followed by a cruel laugh. Amelia stared at the pebbles at her feet and began to count silently. 1, 2, 3. Anything would be fine, as long as she didn't have to look up at that stone or see the ceremony unfolding there. But Blake Thornton's voice still rang out, clear and cold as winter ice. "I, Blake Thornton, the future chieftain of the Black Pine Ridge clan, hereby refuse you, Amelia Hart, as my consort. May the moon goddess sever the bond between us and release me from this burden." Those words were like a real blow. Amelia's knees buckled, and she nearly fell. She grabbed onto a tree trunk, the bark piercing her palms. The surrounding tribespeople whispered and pointed, but no one came to her aid. "An Omega," she heard someone mutter. "I can't believe Alpha is cursed to be paired with an Omega. The goddess must be testing him." Amelia forced herself to stand up straight, raised her head, and met Blake's gaze across the crowd. He stood on the stone circle, dressed in a formal ceremonial robe, with Beta and his confidants lined up on either side. His handsome face was expressionless. No regret, no guilt, not even anger, only a cold indifference. "Do you accept this refusal?" Elder Morden asked in a hoarse voice that echoed through the silent assembly. Amelia opened her mouth, but her wolf howled inwardly, tormented by a wound that would never fully heal. The bond that had been formed 3 days earlier when they turned 18 was beginning to crumble like a rotting rope. Her voice faltered. She cleared her throat and tried again. "I accept." Those words tasted like ashes. The words had barely left her lips when something deep within her chest tore apart. The fragile golden thread, the one connecting her to Blake, snapped with an almost audible crack. Amelia gasped, a wave of pain washing over her. A murmur of approval erupted from the crowd. Blake stepped down from the rock without looking back and went straight to Victoria Chase, Beta's daughter, the beautiful wolf who had kept him warm in his bed for months. She took his arm seductively and gave Amelia a smug smile. "How pathetic," Victoria's voice came clearly. "To think an Omega was good enough for an Alpha." Laughter followed Amelia, but as she stumbled away from the gathering, tears blurred her vision. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She would save her tears for later, alone in the little cabin she shared with her frail grandmother on the edge of the Pacific. The forest welcomed her with its familiar shadows and the scent of pine. Amelia wandered aimlessly, letting her feet lead her deeper into the woods, away from the torches and the ensuing celebrations. Blake was now free to choose a suitable companion, and the herd would drink and dance for his good fortune. She didn't know how long she had been walking until she heard that sound, a soft, painful sob that broke the silence of the night. Amelia froze, her Omega instincts immediately kicking in. That voice, it was young, wounded, desperate. She followed the sound and came to a clearing where moonlight poured down like liquid silver. There, half hidden under a fallen log, lay a wolf cub. But they are not ordinary wolf cubs. Even from several feet away, Amelia could tell this was no ordinary wolf. Its fur shimmered with an otherworldly quality silver, white interspersed with golden lines. Blood stained its fur, and one of its legs was bent at an unnatural angle. "Oh my God," Amelia whispered, kneeling down beside the creature. The wolf cub's eyes opened with a tremor, bright amber seemingly carrying an inner light. It whimpered again, and despite its injury, tried to crawl toward her. Amelia's heart clenched. She carefully reached out her hand, letting the wolf cub smell her scent before touching it. "Shh, little one, I am here." Behind me, a tree branch snapped with a crack. Amelia turned around and saw 3 members of her tribe emerging from the woods, Derek, Mason, and Cole, all of whom were part of Blake's inner circle. "Look at this," Derek drawled, his lips twisting into a sneer. "A rejected Omega weeping in the woods. How pathetic." "There is a wolf cub here," Amelia said urgently, turning to the injured creature. "It needs help. It needs a healer." "That's not from our pack," Mason interrupted, stepping closer to examine the wolf cub more closely. His eyes widened slightly. "Look at its markings. Those aren't from Black Pine Ridge." "So," Amelia carefully cradled the wolf cub in her arms, pressing it close to her chest. "It is injured. It is still a child." Cole laughed, a laugh that sounded ugly in the quiet night. "It is a stray wolf cub, probably sick. Better leave it to a scavenger, or..." He reached for the knife at his waist. "Let it go." The wolf inside Amelia howled, and she hugged the wolf cub tightly, backing away. "No, I won't let you touch it. Won't you let us?" Mason stepped forward, his domineering presence as a high-ranking wolf pressing down on her Omega senses. "You are not worthy to give orders, Whitlock. You are nothing. An Omega without a mate, without status. The kindest thing Blake ever did was refuse you." The wolf cub whimpered in her arms, its tiny body trembling. Amelia felt a warm liquid soaking through her shirt. More blood, it was dying. "Move aside," she said calmly. Derek laughed. "Otherwise what? You want to fight us? You could barely stand after being rejected, and you still want to..." Amelia didn't wait for him to finish speaking. She turned and ran. Amelia did not turn around. She knew the forest like the back of her hand. Every path, every hidden passage, all the shortcuts the proud high. Ranking wolves were too lazy to learn. She dodged under the low branches, leaped over tree roots, her Omega speed astonishing even herself. The wolf cub in her arms beat softly against her chest, faint but steady. "Hang in there," she whispered. "Just hang in there." Shouts of pursuit came from behind, along with the sounds of them moving through the bushes. But Emily knew these woods well. She darted across a narrow path and leaped over a creek, the one that marked the eastern boundary of the Black Pine Ridge territory. She splashed water as she stepped across, technically having already left the tribe's territory, but she didn't care. The cave across the creek was her childhood secret hideout. Amelia crawled inside and finally leaned against the cold stone wall, her whole body trembling with exhaustion, both from running, from the lingering pain of rejection in her chest, and from the fear of what she had just done. She looked down at the wolf cub in her arms. Its breathing had become shallow and rapid, its eyes tightly shut. Blood seeped from the wound she could now see more clearly, deep claw marks, vicious and deliberate. Someone had deliberately attacked the infant. "Who are you?" Amelia asked softly, gently stroking the wolf cub's soft fur. "Where did you come from?" The wolf cub opened its eyes again, staring at her face with astonishing intelligence. Then its little chest heaved one last time, and it fell into a terrifying stillness. "No," Amelia gasped. "No, no, no, please hold on." She pressed her ear against the wolf cub's chest, desperately searching for a heartbeat. There was nothing there. Amelia's tears finally fell, hot and painful. First her partner, now this innocent life. the injustice of the night weighed heavily on her. But then, something strange happened. A warmth began to bloom in Amelia's chest, spreading to her arms and flowing into her hands as she cradled the wolf cub. It felt like sunshine, like spring, like hope itself flowing through her veins. Her hands began to emit a soft golden light. Amelia gasped, staring at her skin as if it belonged to a stranger. This wasn't normal. This couldn't be. Omega had no special powers. They were the weakest of wolves, skilled only in reproduction and obedience to their superiors. But the light grew brighter and brighter. Under her care, the wolf cub's wounds began to heal. What Amelia didn't know, that she couldn't see from the depths of the cave, was the enormous figure standing in the shadows at the cave entrance. Wolf King Caleb Stone has been tracking his stolen son for 3 days, traversing enemy territory and braving great risks. He picked up the wolf cub's scent at the border, and despite the perils, followed it to the lands of Black Pine Ridge. He was just minutes away from his target, and then he heard Omega's pursuer and watched her protect his child with a ferocity that shouldn't belong to her level. Now he stood there, frozen, his icy blue eyes fixed on the glowing Omega, holding his son. She is using magic, healing magic. His son, who had died just seconds before, took a trembling breath. The wolf within Caleb stirred with a sudden and intense interest. Ours, it whispered, belonging to us. Amelia's hands stopped glowing, just as suddenly as they had begun. The golden light faded like the last rays of the setting sun. She stared at her palms, her mind refusing to process what had just happened. Magic. She used magic. That is impossible. Omega doesn't have magic. No one in Black Pine Ridge possesses magic. Such talent is rare, perhaps appearing once in a generation, and only in the most powerful bloodlines. The wolf cub in her arms stirred, letting out a tiny yawn and revealing its pinprickly baby teeth. Its amber eyes opened, clear and bright, no longer shrouded in pain. The wound that had been bleeding freely just minutes before was now pink scar tissue, healing. "You are still alive," Amelia whispered, her voice broken. "You are really still alive." The wolf cub licked her hand with its unusually rough tongue, then nestled against her chest as if seeking warmth. Amelia wrapped the little creature in her shawl, her mind racing. What did she do? Where did this power come from? More importantly, what if someone found out? Her grandmother's warning echoed in her memory. "Our family has always been different. Child, your mother had this talent too, and that is why they killed her." Amelia had always thought it was just the ramblings of a mad old woman. But now, the sound of tree branches snapping came from outside the cave. Amelia jerked her head up, her enhanced Omega hearing picking up the approaching multiple footsteps. "She walked this way. I saw her cross the creek." Derek's voice drifted through the night air. "Even rejected Omega members can't just leave their clan's territory," Mason replied. "Blake wouldn't like that." Amelia looked at the wolf cub in her arms, now sleeping peacefully. She couldn't let them find her and the child. She couldn't let them see what she had done. She moved as quietly as possible, climbing to the back of the cave, where a narrow passage led to another exit. An exit she had discovered as a child and never told anyone about. The passage was so narrow that she couldn't squeeze through. She had to hold the wolf cub carefully, avoiding touching its healing wounds or the stones. The passage seemed endless, and her breath echoed against the solid walls. Finally, she appeared from the other side of the mountain, a full quarter-mile away from where Derek and the others were searching. Amelia paused to catch her breath, scanning the dark forest. She was now far beyond the territory of Black Pine Ridge, strictly speaking, in neutral land. But neutrality did not mean safety. Stray wolves and other predators roamed these areas, and she had no pack to protect her. The wolf cub whimpered, and Amelia realized she could sense its emotions: fear, confusion, hunger. The feeling was faint, but undeniable, like a whisper deep within her mind. Another impossibility. What difference would one more make? She murmured to herself. She began to walk, heading north, towards the only place she could think of that might offer safety: the old healer's cottage, the birthplace of her grandmother. It had been vacant for years, abandoned since her great-grandmother's death. But it was a sanctuary. More importantly, it was far from Black Pine Ridge. As she walked, the forest grew denser, and moonlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy above. Amelia's Omega night vision was somewhat helpful, but she still stumbled over tree roots and branches. The wolf cub in her arms grew heavier with each step, though it couldn't possibly weigh more than 10 pounds. An hour passed. Then, too, Amelia's feet ached terribly. Her arms burned, and the initial pain in her chest had turned into a persistent stinging sensation. But she continued forward, driven by an instinct she didn't fully understand. She had to protect the wolf cub. She had to ensure its safety. As dawn broke, painting the sky pink and gold, Amelia finally saw the cottage. It looked exactly as she remembered it from her only visit as a child. Small and slightly sloping, with vines climbing the stone walls and the garden already covered in wildflowers. "Home," she whispered, though she had never lived here. "We've arrived." She cautiously approached the door, testing the ancient wood. It creaked open in protest, revealing a small room with a fireplace, a small bed, and shelves lined with dusty jars and bottles. Amelia gently placed the wolf cub on the bed, which was at least covered with a protective sheet. The little guy immediately curled up into a ball, his side rising and falling with his deep, steady breathing. "Sleep well, little one," Amelia murmured, running her fingers through its silky fur. "You are safe now." She turned to assess her new refuge. The cabin was remarkably well preserved. The roof appeared sturdy and the windows, though dirty, were undamaged. Her great-grandmother had been the tribe's healer before being accused of witchcraft and expelled. Faithy family resemblance is truly astonishing. Amelia thought bitterly. She was inspecting the jars on the shelf, most of which contained dried herbs that were still somehow well preserved, when the sound outside made her blood freeze. Footsteps, heavy and unhurried, circling the small house. Amelia's wolf stirred nervously. It wasn't Derek or his friend. It was something else. Something more dangerous. A shadow fell at the doorway. Amelia turned around and found herself facing the tallest man she had ever seen. He was well over 6 feet tall, his broad shoulders almost filling the doorway. His hair was as black as midnight, combed back from a face that looked as if it were sculpted from granite. But what drew her attention were his eyes. Winter blue, burning with an intensity that made her Omega instinct scream for her submission. This was an alpha. Not just any alpha. The power emanating from him was unlike anything she had ever encountered. "It is you," he said, his voice deep and thunderous, seemingly vibrating in her bones. His gaze passed over her and landed on the wolf cub sleeping on the bed. "You saved him." Amelia's mind raced. "Who are you?" she managed to ask. Though her voice was barely a whisper, the man's eyes returned to her face, and something flashed in that cold depth, perhaps surprise or approval. "I am Caleb Stone," he said, "the Wolf King of the Northern Territory." His gaze intensified. "And the wolf cub you are protecting is my son." The world beneath Amelia's feet tilted. The Wolf King. She saved the Wolf King's son. "He is dying," she heard herself say. "I can't just leave him like this." "No," Caleb agreed, taking a step into the hut. Amelia suppressed the urge to back away, the urge to bare her throat in submission. "You can't, even if your own people have abandoned him, even if helping him puts you in danger." He approached again, his frosty gaze never leaving her face. "Why?" "Because that is right," Amelia said simply. Caleb's expression changed. His features softened almost imperceptibly. He opened his mouth to respond. Suddenly, the wolf cub let out a sharp, painful cry. Amelia turned and found the little creature convulsing on the bed, its body spasming. Her healed wounds had reopened, and blood was beginning to seep into its silvery white fur. "No." She rushed to the wolf cub's side. "What happened?" "Poison," Caleb roared, rushing to her side. "The same poison that has been killing him ever since he was taken away. Your treatment slowed it, but it is still in his body." The wolf cub's breathing became labored, each breath a labored, wheezing gasp. Its amber eyes opened, staring at Amelia's face with a desperate acceptance, then rolled back. "He is dying," Caleb said, hearing the raw emotion in his voice for the first time. "The poison is too strong. Without a healer with moon magic, he won't last an hour." Amelia looked at the wolf cub, watched the innocent life vanish before her eyes, and then at her hands that had shone with golden light just hours before. She did not understand her own power, nor did she know where it came from or how to control it. But she knew she couldn't just watch the child die. "Get out of the way," she said to Caleb, her voice filled with an authority that surprised even herself. The Wolf King's eyes widened in shock, and Omega was commanding him. But after a heartbeat, he stepped aside. Amelia placed her hands on the wolf cub's chest, closed her eyes, and reached into the warmth within her heart, searching for the light that had once saved him. "Please," she prayed to the moon goddess. "Please let me save him one more time." Her hands began to glow. Behind her, she heard Caleb gasp sharply and felt his burning gaze searing her back. But Amelia was focused on the wolf cub, focused on the poison she could now feel, spreading like black veins through its tiny body. She imagined her light chasing the darkness, burning it away, and healing what was broken. The wolf cub's convulsions subsided. Its breathing became steady. As Amelia poured everything she had into the healing, she sensed something else. A connection forming, delicate as spider silk, between her heart and the wolf cub's heart, between her and the child she had now saved twice. When she finally withdrew her hand, she was utterly exhausted. The wolf cub was sleeping peacefully. Its wound had completely healed, and the faint black veins from the poison had disappeared. Amelia swayed, and the edges of her vision darkened. A strong arm caught her before she fell. "Slow down," Caleb's voice was low in her ear. "I've got you." Amelia wanted to protest, to push away the Wolf King, whose dominance should have instilled fear in her. But her body had other ideas. The moment he touched her, something deep within her settled down, a sense of rightness she had never even felt with Karen. Her wolf howled, feeling satisfied for the first time since being rejected. "Companion," it whispered. "Fey no," Amelia thought desperately, her consciousness fading. "Please, don't do it again." But as darkness engulfed her, the last thing she felt was Caleb's arms tightening, and his voice full of surprise. "Who exactly are you?" When Amelia awoke, she heard the crackling of flames and smelled the smoke of pine. For a moment, she thought she had returned to her grandmother's cottage, safe and warm. Then memories flooded back. Rejection, wolf cubs, Wolf King. Her eyes snapped open. She was lying on the small bed in the cabin, covered with a thick blanket she didn't recognize. The wolf cub, Caleb's son, was curled up beside her, his tiny body radiating warmth. Standing by the fireplace, with his back to her, was none other than the Wolf King himself. Amelia tried to sit up quietly, but the wolf cub immediately stirred and let out a sleepy whimper. Caleb turned around, and his winter blue eyes immediately found her. "You are awake," he said. It wasn't a question. "How long was I unconscious?" Amelia asked, her voice hoarse. 3 hours, Caleb approached. "You exhausted yourself healing my son. That was foolish." "He is dying," Amelia said calmly. "And you might die trying to save him." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Do you know how rare and precious healing magic is?" Amelia pulled the blanket tighter, acutely aware that she was alone in a secluded cabin with a strange alpha. "I didn't ask for this power until tonight. I didn't even know I possessed it." This made Caleb pause. "You've never used it before?" "Never." Amelia looked at her hands, which now appeared perfectly normal. "I don't believe Omega can possess magic. They can't," Caleb said calmly. "That means you are not just an Omega." Before Amelia could answer, the wolf cub stretched, yawned, and blinked its amber eyes. When it saw Caleb, it let out an excited howl and tried to jump off the bed. However, Its legs still wobbled unsteadily due to the effects of the poison. Caleb caught his son before he could fall, lifting him up with surprising gentleness. The wolf cub licked its father's face affectionately, its tail wagging. "Slow down, Ethan," Caleb whispered, and Amelia realized this was the first time she'd heard the wolf cub's name. "You need to rest." But Ethan wouldn't listen. It struggled in its father's arms, reaching out its little paws towards Amelia. "It wants you," Caleb said, his tone enigmatic. Amelia hesitated for a moment, then stretched out her arms. Caleb gently placed Ethan on her lap, and the wolf cub immediately snuggled against her, letting out a contented sigh. The connection that Amelia had sensed earlier suddenly became active and stronger. She could feel Ethan's emotions, happiness, security, and love. The intensity made her gasp. "What did you do?" Caleb asked, his voice sharp. "Something changed when you healed him the second time. I could feel it." Amelia shook her head. "I don't know. I just can't let him die." Caleb studied her with unsettling intensity. "You've formed a bond with him. You've created a soul connection. Do you understand what that means?" "No," Amelia admitted, fear creeping up her spine. "This means my son has claimed you as his people, as his family." Caleb's eyes burned. "This bond is permanent, Omega. It cannot be broken." Amelia looked down at Ethan, gazing at her with absolute trust. "I didn't mean to." "Intentions are irrelevant," Caleb began pacing, his movements agitated. "Ethan is my heir, the future Wolf King. Everyone who forms a bond with him becomes part of the royal family. By the law, do you understand? You have just tied yourself to the throne of the Northern Territories." These meanings crashed over Amelia like waves. "I can't. I am nothing. An Omega rejected by my people." "You're a healer with moon magic who saved my son's life twice," Caleb interrupted, "and forged a soul bond with him." He stopped pacing, fixing her with that intense gaze. "You are far more than nothing." Amelia's wolf perked up at his words, smugly basking in the gaze of its alpha male. She ruthlessly suppressed the feeling. She already had a mate reject her tonight. She wouldn't be foolish enough to harbor hope for another. "What will happen now?" she asked calmly. Amelia remembered Derek, Mason, and Cole, and how they wanted to kill Ethan just because he was a stray wolf cub. "I don't know who attacked him," she said honestly. "When I found him in the woods, he was already wounded during a ceremony of my tribe." She swallowed hard. "But you do know something," Caleb pressed on. "I can see it in your eyes." Amelia thought of Blake, of his recent secret meetings with strangers, of the disappearances of the young wolves who had questioned his authority, and of the cruel atmosphere that seemed to have permeated Black Pine Ridge. "My former pack," she said cautiously, "has been changing. The future leader, Blake, he has been meeting with outsiders. Wolves, I don't know. There have been some disappearances, and some young wolves questioning his authority." Caleb's expression darkened. "Blake Thornton, you know him. I know him. This isn't entirely a lie. His father contacted me a few months ago, proposing an alliance." Caleb's lips twisted in a contemptuous grimace. "I refused. The Thornton family has a reputation for near brutal cruelty." "That is still an understatement," Amelia murmured. "Did he reject you?" This question caught Amelia off guard. "How could you? I can smell it on you," Caleb said, approaching, Amelia's pulse quickening. A broken bond, fresh from the last few hours. Amelia looked away, shame burning within her. He has found his true love. It was easier to tell that lie than to admit that Blake rejected her simply because she was an Omega. No, he didn't. Caleb's voice was soft but firm. True companionship smells different. It is a choice, not fate. Tears stung Amelia's eyes, and she blinked desperately to hold them back. She wouldn't cry. She wouldn't cry in front of this powerful alpha. He had seen too much of her weakness. But then Ethan nestled against her, and through their bond a wave of comfort washed over him, and tears still fell. "He said I was a burden," Amelia whispered. and that Omega would never be good enough for Alpha. The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. When Amelia looked up, Caleb's eyes had turned an almost glowing ice blue filled with rage. "That fool," he roared. "Rejected a healer blessed by the moon, simply because of her rank. I didn't know about healing abilities at the time, neither did he. That doesn't matter." Caleb's voice was as hard as stone. "You saved a dying child tonight. My child, without a thought for yourself. You used magic. You didn't understand. Risking the wrath of your own kind, crossing neutral territory alone. These are not acts of weakness or unworthiness." The powerful conviction in his words warmed Amelia's heart, but she suppressed it ruthlessly. She had learned a lesson about hoping to gain acceptance from a powerful Alpha. "Thank you," she said formally, "but that won't change my nature." "No," Caleb agreed. "No, you are still an Omega." He paused. "An Omega who now has a soul bond with the heir to the Northern Territories. An Omega with rare healing magic. An Omega who has just become one of the most important wolves in the realm, whether you like it or not." Amelia felt dizzy. "I don't understand." "You'll understand." Caleb glanced out the window, the dawn light growing stronger. "But first we need to deal with the immediate problem. Your former tribe will be looking for you. When they find you with me, they'll think I kidnapped Ethan." Amelia realized. "Or worse, that you are a spy for the Northern Territories." Caleb's expression turned grim. "They'll come for you either way, and they won't be gentle." Fear pierced Amelia. But before she could respond, Ethan let out a sharp whimper. Its small body began to tremble, and Amelia felt a sharp pain through their bond. "Poison," she gasped. "It hasn't gone away. I can feel it." Caleb came to her side immediately. "That is impossible. You burned it all." But even as he spoke, black veins began to appear beneath Ethan's silver fur, spreading outwards from his heart. "No, no, no." Amelia pressed her hands to the wolf cub's chest, summoning her magic. The golden light came easily, but when it touched the black veins, they seemed to absorb it like sand absorbing water. "It is fighting back," she said desperately. "The poison is alive in some way. It is adapting." Caleb cursed viciously. "Shadow magic. Someone didn't just poison my son. They cursed him." Ethan's breathing became labored through their bond. Amelia felt its pain, its fear. The wolf cub looked at her with those trusting amber eyes, and something deep within Amelia crumbled. "No," she said fiercely. "I won't let you die. I won't." She closed her eyes, reached out to explore deeper, beyond the golden healing light, towards something else. Something ancient and powerful that had slumbered in her blood for generations. The light that erupted from her hand this time was dazzling, pure white, not gold. It didn't just push away the shadow magic. It devoured it, burning through black veins like burning paper. Amelia felt herself falling, felt her consciousness fading, and she poured everything she had into saving Ethan. In the distance, she heard Caleb calling her name and felt strong arms catch her again. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. The shadow magic retaliated, attempting to turn and seize her. Amelia felt it creep up her arm like ice, feeling it try to corrode her own magic. Then suddenly, warmth surged through her, unlike her own power. It felt wild and primal, like moonlight given form. It surrounded her, protected her, and together with her white light, destroyed the last remnants of the shadow curse. Ethan took a deep, trembling breath. The black veins had completely disappeared. Amelia was plunged into darkness, but not before she felt Caleb's lips touch her forehead, nor before she heard his whispered words. "You stubborn, brave, and incredible Omega. What am I supposed to do with you?" When Amelia woke up again, she heard voices, low, urgent conversations. Her whole body ached, as if she had been trampled by a herd of deer. Her magic felt like a dry well, completely depleted. "We can't stay here. The scouts from Black Pine Ridge will find this place before nightfall," a male voice said. Not Caleb's, but a younger one. "I know, Finn," Caleb replied curtly. "But she can't move yet. She almost killed herself saving Ethan. Then we should take her to a safe place even more, said Finn. If Thornton catches a healer with moon magic, he won't. The finality in Caleb's voice indicated that this was not a suggestion. Amelia forced herself to open her eyes. The cabin was brighter now, with afternoon sunlight streaming in through the windows. Ethan was curled up on the edge of the bed, his small chest rising and falling healthily. Standing near the fireplace were Caleb and another man. The stranger was younger than Caleb, perhaps in his early 20s, with auburn hair and sharp green eyes. He wore leather armor bearing the emblem of the Northern Territories, a silver wolf under a full moon. She is awake, Finn noticed her movement. The two men immediately turned around. Caleb strode across the room, scrutinizing her face with a tense expression. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "It is like fighting a bear and losing," Amelia admitted. She tried to sit up, and the world spun around her. Caleb steadied her, his touch bringing an unexpected warmth to her arm. "You are too rough, your magic needs time to replenish." "Ethan," Amelia looked down at the wolf cub. "Completely cured." Caleb's expression softened slightly. "The curse is gone, thanks to you." Finn cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, we really should discuss." "Finn, this is Amelia Hart," Caleb interrupted. "Amelia, this is Finn Rivers, my beta and closest advisor." Amelia nodded politely, acutely aware of how disheveled she must look, ragged, exhausted, and clearly an Omega. Finn maintained a cautiously neutral expression, but she could sense his curiosity. "Miss Hart," he said formally, "on behalf of the Northern Territory, I thank you for saving our prince." "I didn't know he was a prince," Amelia said honestly. "I only knew he needed help." Something flashed in Finn's eyes, perhaps respect. "That makes your actions all the more admirable." "Finn tracked us here with 3 of my private guards," Caleb explained. "They're currently patrolling the area. We intercepted a Black Pine Ridge patrol heading in this direction about an hour ago." Fear pierced Amelia. "Did they see you?" "We encouraged them to search elsewhere," Finn said, a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. Amelia didn't want to know what that meant. "The key point," Caleb continued, "is that Black Pine Ridge knows you left the tribe's territory with something valuable. They are looking for you." "What do they think I stole?" Amelia asked, puzzled. "They believe you stole information or made contact with hostile groups." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Your former leader is spreading rumors that you've always been a spy. This betrayal shouldn't have hurt her. Blake had already rejected her in the cruelest way, but somehow being accused of treason above all else hurt her deeply." "That is ridiculous," she said weakly. "Of course," Caleb agreed. "But that gives them a legitimate reason to hunt you down. And anyone found harboring a traitor to their tribe will be considered an enemy." The implication hung over Amelia like a heavy cloak. "So, if they find out I am with you, it will give Black Pine Ridge an excuse to declare war on the Northern Territories." "To be precise," Finn said gravely, "they claim we corrupted one of their wolves, turning her into a spy. But I am no longer a part of Black Pine Ridge," Amelia protested. "Blake rejected me. The bond is broken. Refusal doesn't automatically sever ties with the community," Caleb said. "Especially for Omega legally, you're still considered property of Black Pine Ridge until another community formally claims you." The word property made Amelia's wolf howl. She was tired of being treated as an object to be possessed. "Then I'll go somewhere else," she said, trying to stand up. Her legs immediately gave way, and Caleb caught her before she fell. "I will leave this territory and become a wanderer." "Absolutely not," Caleb said, his arms still around her. "A lone Omega won't last 3 days in the land of wanderers, especially not one with your scent." Amelia looked up at him, puzzled. "My scent." Caleb's expression became uneasy. He released her and carefully took a step back. "Your Omega pheromones are unusually strong. That is part of what makes you such a powerful healer. Your body naturally produces calming, healing hormones, but that also makes you a target for wandering alphas." A warmth rose to Amelia's cheeks. She had always known her scent was different, seemingly influencing the wolves more intensely than normal Omega. This was part of the reason Black Pine Ridge had isolated her so much. "Then what should I do?" she asked calmly. "I can't stay here. I can't go to Black Pine Ridge, and I can't become a wanderer." Caleb and Finn exchanged a long, silent glance. A silent conversation flowed between them. Then Finn sighed and nodded. "There is an option," Caleb said slowly, "though you may not like it. At this point, I'll consider anything that doesn't end with my death or imprisonment," Amelia said. "You can accept the protection of the Northern Territories." Caleb observed her reaction carefully. "As Ethan's allied healer, you have the legitimate right to claim the protection of your people." This sounds too good to be true. Just like that. "You'd accept a strange Omega from another ethnic group?" "You're no stranger," Caleb said, his tone carrying something indescribable. "And you're more than just any Omega. You saved my son's life twice. That debt isn't easy to repay." "I don't want any reward," Amelia said quickly. "I just want my own safety." She hesitated, then stepped forward. "And the safety of my grandmother. She's old and still in Black Pine Ridge. If Blake thinks I'm a traitor, he might harm her to punish me." Caleb's expression turned serious. "Where is she?" "A small wooden cabin on the western edge. She can't go far. Her joints are too weak." "Finn," Caleb said, his eyes never leaving Amelia. "Take Marcus and Joel, bring grandmother here. Use force if necessary. But do not harm the wolves of Black Pine Ridge unless they attack first." "Your Majesty," Finn began. "Go do it," Caleb commanded. "Now." Finn bowed his head in submission and quickly left the hut. Amelia heard him outside giving orders to the guards. "Thank you," Amelia whispered, tears welling up again. "You don't have to." "Yes, I must." Caleb stepped closer, his blue eyes burning. "You saved what I cherished most. The least I can do is protect what you cherish." Ethan chose this moment to wake up, yawning and stretching. The wolf cub's eyes brightened when it saw its father, and they changed shape. The process looked like water flowing upwards. In the wolf cub's spot now sat a little boy with silver white hair and amber eyes. He looked about 4 years old and was wearing nothing but an oversized shirt that someone had clearly dressed him in. Dad Ethan lunged at Caleb, who caught him easily. "Slow down, little wolf," Caleb said, but his voice was full of warmth. "You need to rest." "But I feel fine," Ethan insisted. Then his gaze fell on Amelia, and his whole face lit up. "Amelia, you are awake." Before Amelia could respond, Ethan broke free from his father's embrace, climbed onto the bed, and wrapped his little arms around her neck. "Thank you for making the pain go away," he whispered, leaning on her shoulder. "Dad said, you saved me." Amelia's heart melted. She hugged the child back, feeling the warm pulse of the bond between their souls. "You are welcome, sweetheart. Will you stay with us?" Ethan pulled away, his amber eyes filled with hope. "Please say yes. I love you." "Ethan," Caleb warned, "that is not something you can decide." "But Daddy, she is part of the pack now." Ethan placed his little hand on his heart. "I can feel it right here. She is ours." Caleb's expression became complicated. "It is not that simple, son." "Why not?" Ethan looked genuinely confused. "You always say the community should take care of the community. Amelia took care of me, so now we take care of her, right?" "That is so true of the little boy," Amelia thought, watching Caleb engage in a naive logical battle with his son. "Your father is right, Ethan," Amelia said gently. "It is complicated. I come from a different ethnic group, and there are rules about these things." "The rules are stupid," Ethan declared with the full confidence of a 4-year-old. Despite everything, Amelia found herself smiling. "Sometimes that is true." Caleb rubbed his temples, looking more like a weary father than a wolf king in that moment. "Ethan, why don't you ask Joel if he brought any of your favorite honey cakes, really?" Ethan's eyes widened. "But you said too many sweets will." A piece of cake won't do any harm, Caleb said. Go ahead. Ethan jumped out of bed and ran out of the cabin. His childlike excitement made the situation seem almost normal for a moment. Once they were alone, Caleb turned to Amelia with an inscrutable expression. You know what? He's right, Caleb said calmly. About you being a member of the tribe, the bond of the soul makes it official, in a way that transcends normal tribe law. Ethan claimed you, which means the Northern Territory has a legal right, even an obligation to protect you. But Amelia prompted, noticing the hesitation in his voice. But bringing you into the clan will complicate matters, Caleb admitted. You are a rejected Omega from another territory possessing lunar magic. This makes you extremely valuable. Every unpaired alpha in my clan will want to pursue you, and some traditionalists will question whether an Omega should hold such an important position as the prince's personal healer. I don't want to cause you any trouble, Amelia said. You haven't caused any trouble. Caleb's eyes flashed with anger. Blake Thornton is the one causing trouble. That fool refused a moon, blessed healer, and then tried to kill my son. Once we figure out the connection between the two events, I'll enjoy making him pay. You believe Blake was involved in Ethan's kidnapping? Amelia's blood ran cold. I think it is too much of a coincidence. My son disappeared during a trade conference near the Black Pine Ridge border, and then reappeared in the Black Pine Ridge territory poisoned by shadow magic. Caleb's voice was as hard as stone. Shadow magic requires a warlock to cast, and warlocks don't get cheap jobs. Amelia thought of the strange wolf that Blake kept meeting, the missing persons cases, and the growing cruelty within the pack. What is he planning? She said. Yes, Caleb agreed. Now that he knows you saved Ethan, you've become a target, that's why. He took a deep breath, and Amelia sensed this was important. I'm formally offering you asylum and a place among the tribes in the Northern Territories, not as payment for saving Ethan, but because you deserve safety and protection. What do I need to do? Amelia asked cautiously. Serve as Ethan's healer and protector. Train your magic alongside the elders of our people. He hesitated. Accept me as your mark of alpha. Amelia's wolf was unusually excited. Your mark? The possessive bite mark on your shoulder, not your neck, Caleb quickly clarified, is a sign that you are under my personal protection. No one in the tribe dares to harm you, and other tribes will know you don't accept aggressive advances. This makes people think we're a couple, Amelia realized. No, Caleb corrected. It makes you feel like you're under my protection. There's a difference. Couples mark each other's necks at mating. That's just a declaration of custody. Amelia scrutinized his face, trying to decipher his expression. Why would you do this, risking political complexities? Because you saved my son, Caleb said simply. And also because he seemed to struggle with what he was about to say, because my wolves wouldn't leave you unprotected. You are important to Ethan, which makes you important to me, too. This isn't a declaration of love or an expression of desire. It is honesty. Somehow that means more than just pretty words. Okay, Amelia said calmly. I accept. Caleb's eyes widened slightly, as if he hadn't expected her to agree so easily. Do you understand what this means? You'll abandon everything, your old clan, your old life. I no longer have my old life, Amelia said. Blake made that clear when he rejected me. And to be honest, she looked toward the doorway where Ethan had disappeared. That little boy showed me more kindness in 5 minutes than my people have in 23 years. If this is what the North is like, then yes, I want to join. Something fierce and satisfied flashed across Caleb's face. He approached, close enough that Amelia could feel the heat emanating from his body. It will hurt, he warned. Once it is done, we'll be connected. Not like partners, but you can feel me, and I can feel you. Is that okay? Amelia's pulse quickened, but she nodded. Okay, then show your shoulders. With trembling fingers, Amelia pulled open the collar of her shirt, revealing the curve of her shoulders. Caleb's eyes followed his movements. She saw his pupils dilate. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to change her mind. His warm breath brushed against her skin, and Amelia's wolf almost howled. "This makes you someone I need to protect," Caleb whispered, leaning on her shoulder. "Someone I need to guard, someone I need to protect and keep safe. Do you accept this declaration, Amelia Hart?" "I accept," Amelia whispered. His teeth dug into her shoulder. The possessive bite was less painful than Amelia had anticipated. A sharp sting that quickly transformed into a warm, spreading sensation. She felt Caleb's magic seep into her. The pain bloomed on Amelia's shoulder, but it was soon replaced by a strange sense of connection. A warm pulse, as if Caleb's very essence was now intertwined with hers. She could feel him, a solid mountain-like presence, with a touch of wildness at its edge. Through this new bond, she caught glimpses of his emotions: protectiveness, gratitude, and something deeper, unnamed, that stirred a restless unease within her wolf. Caleb took a step back, his eyes fixed on her shoulder, where his teeth now bore the mark, a faint silver mark that shimmered in the moonlight. "It's done," he whispered, his voice slightly hoarse. "Now, you are my responsibility." Amelia pulled up her collar, trying to ignore her racing heart. "Thank you, Caleb." He nodded, but his expression quickly turned serious. "We need to get out of here. Finn and the guards will be back with your grandmother soon, but the Black Pine Ridge patrols are getting closer." As if in response, the sound of horses' hooves and a deep growl came from outside. Ethan rushed into the cabin, his face smeared with honey. "Daddy, Uncle Finn's back, and an old lady too." Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She struggled to her feet, ignoring her body's protests, and rushed to the door. Finn and 2 guards were dismounting, one of them carefully supporting a frail figure. Her grandmother, Isabella Hart, "Grandma," Amelia cried as she ran over, tears blurring her vision. Isabella looked up. Her aged face was lined with wrinkles, but her eyes remained as sharp as ever. She opened her arms, and Amelia rushed into her embrace. "My child," Isabella murmured. "I heard, that bastard Blake." "Quiet, Grandma," Amelia whispered, glancing around. "We have to leave." Finn approached, his expression grim. "We didn't encounter much resistance, just a few young sentries who wisely gave way, but they'll report back. We have to leave now." Caleb picked up Ethan, who had now reverted to his wolf cub form, and nestled in his father's arms. "Mount up. We're heading straight for the northern fortress. There are fortifications and elders there. They can help Amelia restore her magic." The group quickly set off, riding through the woods. Amelia shared a horse with her grandmother, feeling her grandmother's frail body leaning against her. "What is wrong, Grandma? Did they hurt you?" Isabella shook her head. "Number but Blake. He's changed, child. He's making deals with the shadow sorcerers, those missing young wolves. They didn't just disappear. They were used for experiments, dark things." Amelia's blood ran cold. Shadow magic. The same kind of poison Ethan suffered from. "Yes," Isabella whispered. "He wants to use it to conquer neighboring territories, including the north. He thinks refusing you will make him look powerful, but you are the key, Amelia. Your moonlight magic can fight off shadows." Caleb, riding beside them, had clearly overheard the conversation. His jaw tightened. "We'll put an end to his scheme." They rode until nightfall and finally reached the northern fortress. A fortress built of ancient pine trees and gray stone walls, nestled in a snow-covered mountain. Guards greeted them at the gate, and the elders of the pack, 3 senior werewolves draped in silver-trimmed cloaks, were already waiting. "Welcome home, Your Majesty," said the eldest elder, named Elda. "We have heard of this Omega." Caleb dismounted and handed Ethan to a maid. "She's not this Omega. She's Amelia Hart, a member of our new clan, Ethan's allied healer." The elders exchanged glances but offered no argument. They led Amelia to the heart of the fortress, to a moon temple, where an altar was surrounded by silver runes. "Restore your strength here," Elda said. "The moon is full tonight. It will help you." Amelia knelt before the altar, feeling the moonlight pour over her like liquid. Her magic began to replenish, and white light surged within her. Through her bond with Caleb, she felt his power supporting her, a wild, primal energy that helped her heal more quickly. But the restoration was interrupted. An alarm sounded. The low growl of horns echoed through the fortress. "Invaders!" Finn burst in shouting. "The army of Black Pine Ridge gathering at the border. Blake is leading them personally." Caleb's eyes flashed with cold fury. He came quickly, "Finn. Assemble the warriors, Amelia. You and Ethan stay in the temple. The elders will protect you." "No." Amelia stood up, her magic now burning like a torch. "I will not hide. This is my battle, too." Caleb looked like he wanted to argue, but seeing the determination in her eyes, he sighed. "Fine, but stay with me." The battle erupted on the border of the Northern Territory like a raging storm. The wolves of Black Pine Ridge charged through the woods, their eyes gleaming with fanaticism. Blake stood at the head of the line, tall and arrogant, flanked by several figures draped in black cloaks. Shadow sorcerers, their hands swirling with dark tendrils. The warriors of the north met them head, on their claws and teeth gleaming in the moonlight. Caleb transformed into a massive silver-gray wolf and charged ahead, with Finn close behind. Amelia stood on the high ground, Ethan beside her, now in boy form, his small hand tightly gripping hers. "I am scared," he whispered. "It's all right," Amelia said, sending a wave of comfort through their bond. "We will protect each other." Blake's gaze found her, he roared, transformed, and charged towards the high ground. The shadow sorcerers unleashed their magic, black vines crawling towards Amelia and Ethan. "Protect the prince," Elda shouted, and the elders raised the silver barrier. But Amelia didn't need them. She summoned her moonlight magic, and a burst of white light erupted, like a newborn moon. It devoured the shadow vines, burning them. Blake leaped up, his claws aimed at her throat. Caleb intercepted him, and the two giant wolves collided, rolling into a howling ball of fur. Amelia felt the pain through the mark. Caleb's wound burned like hers. "No," she lunged forward, pressing her hands against Caleb's flanks. White light surged into his body, healing his wounds. Caleb retaliated, his teeth tearing through Blake's shoulder. Blake stepped back, transforming back into human form, his face contorted with rage. "You wretched Omega. You were meant to be my tool. Now you've ruined everything." "Wrong," Amelia said, her magic swirling around her. "I am never anyone's tool. I am a healer. I choose to protect, not destroy." The shadow sorcerers rallied, attempting to engulf the highlands with a massive vortex of darkness. But Amelia closed her eyes and reached out to touch the essence of the moon. Her light merged with Caleb's wild power, amplifying through their bond. Ethan joined them, and a small bond of souls added a touch of pure trust. The combined light of the three surged forth like a tidal wave, engulfing the shadow magic. The warlocks screamed as they turned to ashes, and the dark vortex dissipated. Blake, isolated and helpless, knelt on the ground. His army, seeing their leader's defeat, began to retreat. Caleb transformed back into human form and stood before Blake. "Your ambitions are over. Thornton Black Pine Ridge will find a better leader." "No," Blake gasped. "You can't." But Finn's guards had already surrounded him and bound him. "Take him to the Elder's trial," Caleb ordered. The battle was over. The wolves of the north cheered, and the moonlight shone on the battlefield pure as a blessing. Months later, the Northern Territories basked in the spring sunshine. Black Pine Ridge, reorganized after Blake's downfall, was led by a more just council. Amelia's grandmother, Isabella, settled in the fortress, teaching the young wolf about ancient magic. Amelia stood on the temple balcony, watching Ethan play in the courtyard. He was now perfectly healthy, and their spiritual bond made them as close as mother and son. Caleb approached, his arms encircling her waist. His mark pulsated warmly on her shoulder. But now there was another, on her neck, a mutual companion mark. They had exchanged it shortly after the battle. Not out of obligation, but out of choice. "Do you regret it?" Caleb whispered, his lips brushing against her ear. Amelia turned to him and smiled. Never moonlight saved me, Caleb, but you gave me a home. As they kissed, the moon rose, its silvery light blessing their bond. The shadows have vanished, leaving only their eternal connection.